For context, I'm soon graduating college, but where I live, we need to complete what is referred to as social service hours. Basically, working a project related to your major. For mine, I was helping in a program to teach English for free to students. Since this program was free, and technically we weren't actually grading the students, many sometimes wouldn't pay attention, especially since classes were online. I tried making my classes entertaining as I could. It was small, only 12 students. Mind you, I was just one of the college students that were participating in this program as teachers. This program was not created by my college, and we were given all teaching materials, but the last test was actually going to be in person with the people who were organizing the program in the first place. The surprise for the students came when they were told that for the last test, in order to get the diploma that proved they completed the English program, was going to be graded, and they needed at least a 50 out of a 100 to pass. I informed the students, and for the most part, most of the teens, 15, 17-year-olds, were doing fine. We had been working together for about 16 weeks by now, but out of my class of 12, there was this student we had some difficulties with. Let's call him Mike. He's not a bad kid, but since the beginning, he made it clear that he didn't want to learn English. He wanted to learn French. Later on, after what happened with his mother, I even learned that at one point, he almost got a scholarship to study in a school that teaches French as a second language. But his mom sent him to a smaller school that is well known for teaching English, but he was struggling, so that's why he was in these classes. After the announcement that the last test was going to be graded, I told the class that if they would like, we could do some extra sessions. Now, this was something extra I offered, not from the program, mostly because I had the free time and the fact that they were going to be graded for the program. Out of 12, 11 joined the extra classes. I guess you might have an idea by now who didn't join. By now, we are 2 weeks away from that final test when I first started getting contacted by Mike's mom. Karen, at first, she seemed like a concerned mom, but the mask soon slipped. By now, the extra classes I'd given had stopped because I no longer had that extra time because of my job. I told her as such, and she went nuts saying how I needed to find the time and teach her son. All of this over the phone. And yes, since the classes were online, the parents had my phone number because we communicated through WhatsApp. I tried being reasonable and said that if they could come up with the topics he needed help with, I'll try to help him. And also with the condition, there was a parent present. I didn't want any misunderstandings or someone thinking we didn't study. Fast forward to the extra classes, Mike would connect and his aunt was always in the background, but he was trying to fit almost 16 weeks worth of lessons in less than 2 weeks. By the time it was 1 week before the exam, that was when I started receiving calls from Karen. I couldn't answer most of them because I was working. Apparently that pissed her off more because she started leaving me messages accusing me of ignoring her. In the end, in the span of a day, she called me 24 times while I was in my job. After I finished my shift, I called her back because I thought something bad had happened. Nope, she just started yelling at me, then the saying that I was a bad teacher, the demanding that I just share the final test answers because Mike needed to have that diploma. I tried telling her that I didn't have the test results, and even if I did, obviously I couldn't just share them. That's when Karen went crazier and started saying how she was going to make sure I got expelled from college because I was ruining her son's future. She also started saying how she was going to tell everyone that I was asking her son for extra classes just to spend time with him. Thankfully, my college director and the teacher in charge of connecting us with the people from the project knew about these extra classes and even encouraged us to give them if we had the free time. In the end, I hung up on her but couldn't block her just yet because any news we got that we had to share with the parents was done through texts. In the end, I took a screenshot of her threats and sent them to my teacher in charge and the person from the program I communicated with. Karen was given a stern talking to and was told that the day of the exam she was not allowed to take her son. Someone else had to take him to the place of the exam, and also that her son was going to be getting observed more often to ensure he wasn't cheating. I had to endure Karen bothering me for the rest of the week because she was still the main contact for Mike, even after everything. So I was so happy to finally block her after giving the last instructions for the day they were having the exam. Basically, they were divided in groups and a teacher from the program took care of them. Later, from this teacher that took care of my former students, I found out that Karen did try to spread rumors I was a bad teacher and a creep. But since the other students did quite well in my classes, none of the other parents complained and actually were on my side. Then also, apparently, she tried getting in contact with my college to complain. But that was shot down. Also, from this teacher, was that I learned that Mike wanted to learn French, not English. Anyways, a 20-year-old female was stopping at a fast food joint to grab my brother, 13-year-old male, some dinner before a weekend trip I had to drop him off for. There were some hiccups, so I was running late and had pulled into a spot. Getting out of the car, I had noticed I was slanted and my back tire was over the line. This was where I was, in fact, in the wrong. But since I was going to be in and out, I figured it was no big deal. We get inside, order his dinner, and this lady, 40-ish-year-old female, comes in and starts telling me that because of the way I parked, her car was unable to safely get out of the spot. In retrospect, I'm very confused about this now. My car was completely in the spot, just slanted, and therefore backing up straight meant one could safely get out of the spot. But knowing that I had in fact parked wrong, I decided to just go along with it and fix it so, supposedly, her car could leave. I followed her outside and she suddenly asked me if I had hit her car door. I looked confused and told her no. She seemed a bit skeptical, but thank God didn't ask any more questions about it. I was still confused because it wasn't my front half anywhere close to her door. It was the back tire a little over the line. I guess if I had swung my door open without regard, maybe I would have hit her door. But I'm used to my college's tiny parking spaces loaded with trucks and know how to carefully open my door and squeeze out. I get into my car afterwards and start to back up to correct the minor offending tire, and this lady grabs my mirror and starts screaming that a car was coming in. I slammed on my brakes in confusion and noticed that a car was indeed coming, but it had just turned the corner of the building. I muttered and, okay, sorry, because of my own anxiety. She smugly goes, it's okay. You weren't looking. Except I was. My car had a backup camera, and the vehicle in question had just turned the corner. At the high speed of 2 miles per hour, I had plenty of time to hit the brakes when it showed up on my camera. And still, that gives you no right to grab on my mirror, which was a complete overreaction. That was luckily it, though I afterwards realized she wasn't even the driver. Her husband was. Which confused me, considering she claimed she couldn't get out of the spot but wasn't even driving. And shockingly enough, I managed to back up and repark without any problems, proving you could indeed back up out of the space. I do wonder, with all the trucks around here that don't or hardly fit into parking spaces, how they'll ever manage. Or if they'll manage with parallel parking. And by the time I went back inside, my brother had already gotten his food, which made me even more annoyed that I had wasted the time correcting what feels like an over-exaggeration to bad parking. Oh well, I guess. This is recent and very petty, but great. My friend keeps a very clean yard. In the fall, he likes to get all the leaves before it rains and they become a bitch to pull up. His neighbor doesn't care about his yard as he has owned the house for a few years and still has not moved in. He lives a few states away. As my friend was finishing up sucking up the leaves with his machine, someone blew into the neighbor's driveway. Maybe 20 leaves total. My friend finished up and went inside. About 20 minutes later, there was a knock on the door and squad car outside. The officer said they received a complaint about leaves being blown into the driveway. The neighbor had been watching on his doorbell cam and decided this transgression warranted police intervention. You could tell the officer was visibly annoyed. As my friend asked the officer to look at his yard and then his neighbor's, the pettiness. The neighbor had an old car shipped and dropped in the driveway about 8 months ago, where it has sat ever since. Remember, he still lives a few states away. While my friend told the officer he would clean the leaves, promptly he asked the officer if he could do him a favor. Check the car for proper tags. The officer saw the car in question and gave a slight smile. While my friend cleaned the leaves out of the driveway, then officers were walking around the car looking at the VIN and running information. You could hear the neighbor on his doorbell asking what the problem was. There is a law any car that is in the driveway must have tags and insurance on them. The police gave him a call and told him his car was in violation and he either needed to put the car in the garage, which would need to be lifted and dropped in the garage, or get the registration, insurance, and an e-check on the car that can't be driven taken care of within 2 weeks, or they will be back to tow the car and ticket him. Dude cost himself a 10-hour car ride to get his car lifted and stuffed in the garage all over a few dead leaves. So this isn't my revenge story. This is about me, currently experiencing somebody else's revenge, but honestly, I gotta respect it, especially because it's funny. So I work for a self-storage company, but I can't get too specific because I don't want to lose my job, as the economy we live in is a nightmare. Basically, my job is to sit behind a desk, answer the phone, give people tours, and watch security cameras, occasionally sweep the building, all that jazz. In October, the corporation sent out a mass email telling every single tenant that they would be required to have some form of rental insurance, homeowners insurance for their storage unit, or otherwise they would be enrolled in our tenant protection program. They stressed that you absolutely must not refer to it as insurance to the tenants, because it's not insurance. It's a flat rate payout based on how much money you put in. I can't get any more specific than that for fear of giving away the company. So many tenants have been calling us upset with the change for the better part of the last month and a half, which is totally understandable because the protection plan is nonsense, but I'm literally just here to answer the phone. So I feed them the script I'm given, express what sympathy I can, and continue with my day. Today, I showed up and I was informed that someone has signed the storage facility's phone numbers up for multiple insurance spam calls. Literally amazing. I laughed when my manager told me. He was less amused, but I can't help but admire the creativity. The phone has been ringing every 5-10 minutes, and we will get 3-4 calls in a row in these short bursts. We have to answer every single one to make sure it's not a tenant. Is it a little annoying to me? Yes, but it's going to be very annoying to corporate, who are now trying to get the phone numbers off all these spam lists. Shout out to the tenant who did this. I respect your energy. Even if I have to listen to the phone ring all day,